Okay, so the next question is, what cheeses raise your risk of stroke? And what are the 5 best cheeses to protect your brain? I'm a specialist in nutritional therapy, and in this episode of Know What You Eat, we are going to be looking at all 5 of those cheeses that can raise your risk of stroke. And then we will be looking at the 5 really best cheeses that have been shown to lower your risk of having a stroke. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first off, the 5 worst cheeses for your risk of stroke. Number 1 is any cheese made with raw milk. Okay, so there is lots of different types of cheeses that are made with raw milk, and the reason why they are high risk is because firstly, raw milk itself has a higher risk of carrying harmful bacteria. And one of those bacteria is called Listeria monocytogenes. And if you've ever heard of listeriosis, this is the same bacteria that causes that condition. Now if you are a healthy person, okay, so you don't have any underlying health issues, you probably will not get very sick from listeria. But if you do have a weakened immune system, you may get very sick from listeria and even end up passing away. Also, if you are pregnant or you are over the age of 65 years old, again, if you contract listeriosis, you may get very sick and even pass away. Now here's the other thing about list. When you are pregnant, you can actually pass this bacteria across to your unborn baby. This is also very serious because obviously you want to make sure that your unborn baby does not get an infection like this. So that's the biggest risk of getting a cheese that is made with raw milk. The second risk of getting a cheese that is made with raw milk is that it may contain harmful viruses. And these viruses can cause gastroenteritis. So basically you get an upset stomach, maybe some vomiting, and some diarrhea. Now generally speaking, when you think about it, if you're going to make a cheese, would you rather make it with pasteurized milk or raw milk? Of course, you're gonna make it with pasteurized milk because pasteurized milk is safer. However, there are some artisanal cheese makers who say, well, the enzymes and the probiotics in the raw milk are better for making certain types of cheeses. Well, you need to weigh up whether you agree with that or not. I personally, given a choice, would always choose pasteurized milk over raw milk just to avoid the risks of listeriosis and also the risk of viral infections. Now, this type of cheese, which is made with raw milk, is often more expensive because they are artisanal. So remember, when you see a cheese that is expensive and it says on the label that it is made with raw milk, that is probably why it is expensive, because they are trying to justify that it is worth paying more for because it is an artisanal product. However, I'm sorry, but that does not outweigh the risk of contracting something like listeriosis. So always check the label and make sure that it says pasteurized milk. And if it doesn't say, then assume that it is made with raw milk. So that's number 1. No. 2 is any soft cheese that is made with unpasteurized milk. Again, this goes back to the risk of listeriosis. Now, if you're not in a high-risk category, you might be thinking, oh, I don't really mind taking that risk. Well, the problem is that listeriosis is quite common in pregnant women, and it is quite common in people over the age of 65 years old. So if you are buying cheese for somebody who is pregnant or over 65, you need to make sure that it is pasteurized, right? The third type of cheese that can increase your risk of stroke is mold-ripened cheese. Now, what are mold-ripened cheeses? Well, these are cheeses that are ripened with the help of molds. For example, brie, camembert, some blue cheeses, and also some German-style cheeses like Munster. Now, although these are delicious, soft, creamy cheeses, the problem is that molds produce mycotoxins. And these mycotoxins are carcinogenic. They can lead to cancer. So again, you need to weigh up whether you want to take this risk or not. If you're young and healthy, maybe you do. But if you're buying this for somebody who's elderly or for a child, probably not. The fourth type of cheese that can raise your risk of stroke is any cheese that is high in sodium. Now, most of you know that eating too much salt is bad for your health. It increases your blood pressure. And some people are very sensitive to this, and their blood pressure goes up significantly when they eat too much salt. In fact, I had a client who was recommended by his doctor to go on a low-salt diet because his blood pressure was reacting badly to salt. And within 2 weeks of doing that, his blood pressure normalized. So that's how powerful salt is. And the problem with many commercial-style cheeses is that they are loaded with salt. In fact, some of them can contain as much as 3 grams of sodium per serving. And the recommended daily amount for sodium is only 2,300 milligrams. So if you're having 3 grams of sodium in 1 serving of cheese, that's 30% of your daily requirement for sodium. And that's in just 1 serving of cheese. So if you're having a whole lot of cheese, you can bet that you're gonna be way over your daily limit for sodium intake. So look at the label and avoid cheeses that are high in sodium. The last type of cheese that can raise your risk of stroke is any cheese that is high in saturated fat. Now, saturated fats are found in lots of different foods, but especially in animal products. The problem with eating too much saturated fat is that it can block your arteries and it can raise your cholesterol levels, both of which can contribute to stroke. And interestingly enough, the highest type of cheese that you can get in terms of saturated fat is what's called cheese, 75% fat. So this is a very high-fat cheese. I personally have never heard of this, and I've never seen it. But apparently you can get it. But if you can get it, avoid it. Let's now look at the 5 best cheeses to protect your brain. So no, 1 is mozzarella. Mozzarella is a fresh cheese, okay, that is generally lower in calories, lower in fat, and lower in sodium. And it's usually made with pasteurized milk. So it does not carry the risk of listeria or other harmful bacteria. Number 2 is Edam cheese. Now, Edam cheese is a hard cheese that is lower in fat and lower in sodium. And it is usually made with pasteurized milk. Interestingly enough, Edam cheese originated in Holland, and it was originally made by a Dutch cheesemaker around the year 1300. No, 3 is provolone. Now, provolone is a semi-hard cheese that is lower in fat and lower in calories than many of the other cheeses. Again, it's usually made with pasteurized milk. And provolone has a mild flavor that is similar to mozzarella. Interestingly enough, provolone originated in Italy, and it was originally made in the province of Naples, for its cheddar. Cheddar is a hard cheese that is lower in calories and lower in fat than many of the other cheeses. It does have a relatively high protein content. It's also a good source of calcium and vitamin D, and interestingly enough, cheddar also originated in England. 5 is feta. Feta is a brined curd cheese that is made with either cow's milk, goat's milk, or sheep's milk. It has a crumbly texture and a tangy flavor, and it is usually lower in fat and lower in calories than many of the other cheeses. Feta is often used in Greek salads, and it's also used in lots of different Mediterranean dishes, so there you have it. Those are the 5 best cheeses to protect your brain, and those are the 5 worst cheeses to raise your risk of stroke. Now, if you'd like to learn more about stroke and what causes it, click on this video right here, where I talk about 7 things that can cause a stroke. Now, if you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up below, because that really helps me with the algorithm. Also, put your comments down below. I love reading them, and I reply to as many as I can. Now, if you haven't seen my other videos yet, please click on this playlist right here, where I cover all sorts of topics relating to nutrition and health. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.